Blanket time is a great tool to teach your children how to respect boundaries. Blanket time is a structured activity during the day where you teach baby to sit on the blanket and play with toys. There are many benefits to doing blanket time. In this video, we will detail exactly what blanket time is, and we will go over the benefits of blanket time. We will also go over the details on how to implement blanket time and touch on what to do if your child just will not stay on the blanket for blanket time. But first, hello, my name is Valerie. I am the mother to 4 children who currently range in age from 11 to 18 years old. And I love helping parents love parenting. I have been blogging on parenting since the year 2007. So what is blanket time? Blanket time is very similar to independent playtime. If you're not familiar with independent playtime, I do have a video about that and a blog post about that, so you can learn more there. A distinct difference with blanket time versus independent playtime is that your child during blanket time is not completely alone. Independent playtime, they are playing completely independently. And in blanket time, you want your child to play independently, but they are still near you. Also with independent playtime and like a baby, then your baby is going to be in a playpen, something with some very physical boundaries so that your baby can't like just get up and go. But with blanket time, the actual blanket is your baby's boundary. So there are no hard lines that prevent your baby from moving off of the blanket. It is only their own self-control. With blanket time, your baby's on a blanket. They are allowed to play on the blanket, but they are not allowed to leave the blanket. This obviously teaches the child to sit still in one place and play, and also teaches them parameter skills. Blanket time does not have to be daily, but it can be. And sometimes it can be a really good idea to do it daily while you are trying to establish that this is a thing and help your child really understand what the rules and boundaries are. But it doesn't have to be something you do every single day. Let's discuss some of the benefits. One huge one is that you have a tool to keep your child in place. And just think of all the times that can come in handy. A big one that comes to my mind is church. You set out that blanket and your baby sits on the blanket and stays there. How much easier does that make church for you? You can also think of any time you visit someone else's house who may not have a very baby-friendly house. And with that, I kind of think of relatives who haven't had a baby in their home for a long time, or maybe a neighbor or a friend, and they may even have fragile things that not only is it not like baby proof, it's like safe for your baby, but like also your baby may be able to get into something and like destroy something very important to them. It's really handy in that kind of situation too. It also can come in handy at doctor's appointments or anywhere where you have like typically would need to try to keep your baby still and in one location. It gives them something to do where they already know this is the drill, this is what I do, and you're not wrestling the baby the whole time. Another great thing about blanket time is it teaches your baby self-control. It is not easy to have self-control. And in our world of instant gratification, we get almost everything we want right away, it just gets harder. But we really have to be intentional about teaching our kids to have self-control. Along with that self-control, your children will learn about boundaries and how to respect them. And in the same vein, they learn how to obey. Those are just a few of the very obvious benefits of doing blanket time. I do want to throw in a word of encouragement here because I just think a lot of times when you are, especially a new mom, a lot of things seem very overwhelming. And so you may be thinking, and whether you're a new mom or you have several children, for whatever reason, you may be thinking, this is too much for me. This is overwhelming. I don't need another thing to worry about. Like if that's the case, like you don't have to do blanket time. It is definitely not like a requirement for your child's success forever. There are some many great benefits, but that doesn't mean that you can't gain those benefits in other ways. So if this is too much for you and the benefits of applying it right now do not outweigh the stress of trying to apply it right now, you don't have to do it. I did not do blanket time with my 2 oldest children. I did it with my 2 youngest just because by that point I kind of had everything else down to a pretty good science. I knew what I was doing with all of my other parenting goals, but I would not say I look back and just think like, wow, I ruined my 2 oldest kids because I didn't do blanket time. It's a great tool to have, but if it's too much for you, do not worry about it. If you want to try it, let's talk about some of the details about how to implement it. You can start at any age. So whatever age your child is now, you can start blanket time. All of the benefits of blanket time, you need like a semi-mobile baby at least. Like obviously a baby who can't move at all isn't choosing to stay on the blanket and therefore isn't developing self-control skills, which of course that would be pretty young for a baby to need self-control skills. But so you're looking at semi-mobile baby into older ages. Whenever you're starting anything like this that has like some boundaries, and maybe most things, it's good to just start small. Start with just 3 to 5 minute in length. Just have that expectation for your little one, just 3 to 5 minutes. Then it won't be way too long for them to sit on a blanket and play. And it won't be way too long for you to monitor them because you will have to monitor them at first. Then you can work up from there and get longer. Whenever you're starting anything that requires time, like a timer is always a great tool. So in this case where you are timing the length, is great to use a timer because then your child learns the timer decides when it ends, not the amount of effort I am putting into throwing a fit or the amount of effort I'm putting into fighting this. The timer decides when it ends, not me or my fit throwing. The timer's great. You want to make sure you have something fun for your baby to play with or child, and that toy they're able to play with independently without your help. Don't give them something that is not age appropriate. If it's too old for them, they're not going to be able to play independently without you stepping in and helping them out. And also, as tempting as it will be, do not load the blanket with toys. You just want a couple of toys, just a few options. If you put too much there, then it is overstimulating, overwhelming. Keep it simple. And of course, it is very smart to rotate through toys. This is just smart anytime you want a child to be engaged with toys. Like toy rotation is always helpful and a good idea. But with your blanket time, it's smart that like the only time they see that toy in this period of their life is on that blanket. And have a toy that they play with all day long that you then put on the blanket for blanket time. Have something that is special just for blanket time. And you can rotate that. It doesn't have to be that one toy forever. You can have one toy this week and next week you can have a different toy that's the blanket toy time. I want the blanket to be smallish, and at first it can be good for it to be smaller even than where you intend to land. But don't get out like a queen size blanket for your baby. You want it large enough for your child and the toys. That's it. Also really smart to pick a time of day to do blanket time that your child is well rested and recently fed. Don't try to do this with a baby 20 minutes before nap time is supposed to start. That's going to be a struggle. I would recommend you're following an eat, wake, sleep cycle. And so you get your baby up, you feed your baby, and then you do blanket time. And you probably change the diaper too, but as soon as possible after feeding has ended, that's when you do your blanket time. And again, you need to be engaged with your child or present and close by while your child is learning how to do blanket time. You can't set your child on a blanket and then walk away and expect your child to just stay there. Don't set your child on the blanket when you have other things that you must be doing. Pick a time when you're able to spend attention and time with your child. Like I said, you start with just a few minutes, but you can work up to 30 minutes at a time. So we're starting small. As your child gains the skills, you can add time over time. You want to have at least 2 to 3 times a week, but 7 times a week is totally fine. So it of course sounds really easy just talking about it, but you might have a child who fights that boundary, who wants to test. Kids are little scientists, and you just may have one who's like, you want me to stay on this blanket? Well, what happens if I try to get off? And I definitely had one of those. I had a cute little strong-willed toddler who was also a strong-willed baby, And when she first started doing this, she wanted to test that blanket boundary. So the first thing is just expect there to be testing. Even like kids who aren't so much boundary pushers, like all kids are scientists. That's how they learn so well. Like they're amazing learners. And so they're going to test that boundary. They're not just going to automatically know and understand, like, I'm supposed to stay on this blanket. So you can show them, like, here's the edge of the blanket. Don't move off the blanket. We stay on the blanket. You can explain those things, but they may not understand. And even if they do understand, they may not believe you. Expect that there will be testing. When that happens, just put your child back on the blanket and say, we stay on the blanket. Wait for the timer to go off. We stay on the blanket until the timer goes off. Play with your toys. And then you just repeat as necessary. And it might get frustrating, especially if you have a strong boundary pusher. Just remind them, oh, we stay on the blanket. Here's the edge of the blanket. We don't leave the blanket. We stay on the blanket. We play with your toys until the timer goes off. And you definitely want to address it even if they just put 1 foot off the edge. And an extreme tester is going to put 1 foot off the edge at some point. Once they realize you want me on this blanket, at some point that 1 foot is going off the blanket and they're going to look at you and see your reaction. And the reaction needs to be, oh, we stay on the blanket. And you need to stay calm. You don't flip out. You don't get mad. You don't get emotional. Like, you are calm as can be and just stating facts. We stay on the blanket. Put your foot back on the blanket. And you might have to put that foot back on. And this is just like natural behavior. Like, your child will do it. You know, if you've had pets, they do it too. Like, I have a dog who is allowed, she's not allowed in this certain carpeted area. And especially right now in the winter, because she's decided that she doesn't want to pee on the snow. She wants to pee on the carpet. So she stays not on the carpet so that she does not pee on the carpet. And every once in a while, she just sets 1 foot past her boundary and looks at me. And if I say nothing, pretty soon there's another foot and another foot. But if I immediately tell her to get back, she moves back and she doesn't try it for a while. Dogs aren't as smart as humans, so they might test things more. It's just natural behavior to test boundaries. And even a child who solidly knows this is my boundary, every once in a while, especially those boundary testers, might be like, well, what about now? How you feeling today? Mom seems a little distracted today. I'm gonna try that 1 foot. Let's see what happens. So just be aware of that. Don't even let the 1 foot go. And once again, use that timer. And when the timer goes off, say, oh, the timer went off. Now we get to clean up our toys, time to end blanket time. And also, if your child is in a boundaries testing time, keep that blanket time short. Don't try to do 30 minutes if your child is testing that boundary. That will just leave you both really frustrated. If your child is testing, keep it short, stay consistent, and keep it short enough that you and your child can both maintain your composure. You need to both be able to keep it together, so don't make it longer than you can both maintain your composure and make it a positive experience as much as possible. There you have the very basics on blanket time. It is a wonderful tool. If you get it established, you definitely won't regret the effort that goes into it. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the comments. I will answer them. And if you want more information, make sure you read my blog post all about blanket time. Thanks for watching and have a great day.